Hey everybody, Jerry Williams, aka Greater Sapien here. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, this was it. Severance Season 2, season finale. And I have to be honest, one reason me getting this video out has taken so long, apart from life getting in the way, is that this episode had so much to it. Every minute of screen time could have been me talking for 3 minutes, folks. I had to digest it. I had to figure out how to not make a 3-hour video. So let's get into Season 2, Episode 10, Cold Harbor. And as always, spoilers ahead for the entire Severance TV series. Okay, when we left off in Episode 9, Helly was face-to-face with James Egan. Dylan was heading up the elevator after having put in his resignation. All of Lumen was awaiting the completion of the Cold Harbor file, and Mark was standing face-to-face with Miss Cobell. Which is where we pick up the story, as the first thing Cobell asks about is the status of Cold Harbor.
No.
Since it's not complete, she tells Mark that Miss Casey/Gemma is still alive. She tells about the hallway to the testing floor, and he reveals that Irving had made a map to it, to her surprise. We cut to Helly being confronted by James Egan, and she instinctively grabs a pen as a weapon. I love that. James confesses to Helly what we all suspected, that he does not love his daughter Helena. He says he used to see Keir in her, but that he left her as she grew. And so he's had a bunch of other kids on the side trying to sire someone that had the spirit of Keir in them. But none of them did. But, he says, Helly does. He sees the fire of Keir in Helly. Now, at this point, I want to give a shout out to user Supercritical Snake for coming pretty damn close to this in a comment he made, or they made, on episode 9. Snake thought James may had Helena go through some kind of reprogramming that has been stripped away by Helly. Now, this idea made me think that Helena is more of a self-imposed personality that Helena has adopted for herself. Maybe the effed up relationship with her father has caused her to purposely distance herself. Maybe she doesn't buy into the whole Keir worship as much as we think, or maybe she does, but isn't down with Dad and doesn't want to be his type of person. So she's become Helena, the Helena we know and loathe. And maybe that's why she was so able to easily imitate Helly convincingly. It's who she is at her core. That makes me reframe the scene of her going to the diner to see Audi Mark. How much of that was her wondering if she and Audi Mark could have the spark that she and Mark had? Not so much a test of the severance procedure as actually seeking someone to vibe with her real self. After freaking Helly out with his creepy line delivery, James leaves. Back with Mark, Cobell explains the escape plan. Once he completes Cold Harbor, he needs to go to the testing floor. When he goes down, Audi Mark will grab Gemma and bring her up, where Mark will then take her to the exit stairwell. Devon says that they can get Gemma out. If they can get Gemma out, it could end Lumen, which of course triggered all of us viewers to wonder exactly what Mark says next.
What happens to us?
And Devon seems to have not thought that far ahead, at least not far enough to have a decent answer. Seeing they have a bit of resistance, they hand the conversation over to Audi Mark, who has pre-recorded a message on a camcorder for his innie self. Now, we know these people have smartphones with cameras. We've seen them, yet they insist on using camcorder technology for these messages. Anyway, Mark starts to watch the message from Audi Mark, and I love the look on his face here. This is truly an amazing moment for him, and he can't believe it. Audi Mark makes a very well-stated apology for what he's put Mark through, which is something that Mark never expected to happen. Audi Mark says he wants to work with Innie to make things right, and therein lies the issue for us viewers, because we know that Audi Mark doesn't know the whole story, or have the same goal as Innie Mark does. Innie Mark records his reply and steps outside so Audi Mark can see it. I Mark explains to Omark that Innies have a life such as it is, and they don't really want it to end. And so the back and forth begins. Omark starts to explain reintegration to Imark and says once Gemma is free, he will finish the process. But Imark is properly skeptical. He quickly does the math and figures his mind and memories would be easily subsumed by Audi Mark's. And so Omark, like Devon, is caught on his back foot. So he tries to change tack, talk about Gemma, but then he makes a grievous error.
You like someone down there? Helena Egan, right? Your Innie name's Helene?
This is a moment watching that the viewers all say, oh boy. See, we remember when Helena Egan met with Mark at the diner and everything was going nicely. Chemistry was popping, and then she got Gemma's name wrong. And that flipped a switch in Mark. Oh, you don't care enough to have learned her name. And because Innie Mark and Audi Mark are so much alike, we know it's going to happen again. But this goes further because Omark speaks of Imark and Helly like a childhood crush. And maybe it is, but it's a valid passion to Innie Mark, and that condescension immediately sets up a divide. Because they both know Helena Egan won't reintegrate, and Helly will be lost to him. And in the end, Innie Mark just doesn't trust him. Nor should he, as Devon points out. Mark was only trying reintegration in order to find a way to get Gemma out. If he gets Gemma out, there's no need to go through more brain trauma. So Cobell talks to Innie Mark alone. She explains to him what many of us had come to suspect. The numbers are Gemma. Each file is the encoding of a new consciousness imprinted on Gemma. The feelings they get from the clusters of numbers are the four tempers.
A new Innie.
Mark says he's completed 24 files. Cobell tells him that Cold Harbor is the last file, and when he has completed it, his time and Gemma's at Lumen will be over. But Cobell's motivation can't be trusted either, and Mark leaves, insisting that he'd better wake up on the severed floor next. Which he does. And when he shows up on the severed floor, he's greeted by a new painting called The Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor. This one has him looking like a savior, finishing his file at the computer like some anointed task. Helly shows up, and the two of them are guided to the MDR office by deliberate lighting. There, they are greeted by a statue of Keir Egan, who will bear witness, along with Helly, to his completion of Cold Harbor. Helly gets Mark up to speed on James Egan coming by and being a creeper. Meanwhile, Milchick greets Dylan, who's back on the severed floor. Gemma, down on the testing floor, opens her closet door to see her own clothes hanging there. If I remember correctly, it's the outfit she was wearing the night she died. Mark tells Helly all he knows about Cold Harbor and the plan with Gemma and reintegration. And though they don't fully trust Cobell or Mark's Audi, maybe this will take down Lumen.
Yeah, but I want to live with you.
Helly, though, understands the reality that she is Helena Egan on the outside. There's no winning scenario for her. Mark decides to complete the file. And meanwhile, Milchick gives Dylan a letter from his Audi in response to his resignation request, and then bolts out the door like his mama yelled his full name. Today is an important day. He's got things to do. The letter from Audi Dylan it's excellent. It really shows how similar Dylan's innie and Audi are. And it's probably the best example of a healthy relationship between an innie and an Audi. Of all the MDR team, Dylan has the best chance of a happy ending to this tale. If they were to reintegrate today, they would have a pretty good life. Then we come to the moment of truth. As Mark completes the file, Helly comes over to help him push the button and hand off the map. Suddenly, music starts to play, and the figure of Keir Egan starts moving and speaking. With fog machines going, Milchick comes out in a clumsy award show handoff. Milchick and Keir do a little witty back and forth until an awkward moment happens. Apparently, this event was planned a while ago, and the script reflects that. The Keir animatronic makes a snide comment about the way Milchick speaks, and we all saw in the previous episode Milchick coming into ownership of that trait. So this dig gets on Milchick's nerves. He must have forgotten about that remark in rehearsal. He claps back at the animatronic with an off-script comment that baffles the limited AI of the Keir bot. As Milchick drags off Keir, he introduces a new severed department we were not aware of: choreography and merriment. And a 100-piece marching band comes in to perform. And I couldn't help but notice it's the most black people on screen at once this show has ever had. But that's me. Now, this performance is really good. The creators of the show had a lot of fun editing this together to be both entertaining as a musical sequence and build the tension of the story. Milchick, showing he's as versatile as they come, playing the drum major and selling every moment of it. The performance reaches peak absurdity with the band forming a sign that says 100% with Mark's face on it that no one will see because it's overhead and pointing toward the ceiling. What are you thinking? Meanwhile, James Egan goes to a small room to witness Gemma's final test with the imprint of Cold Harbor. As Helly distracts Milchick and keeps him in the bathroom, Mark makes a break for the testing floor elevator, and Dylan heads to see what all the music is about. Drummond goes into a secret room across from the testing floor elevator, and Gemma heads into the Cold Harbor room. Helly isn't able to hold the door from Milchick, but just before Milchick gets out, Dylan, showing the strength that would surely help him in many a muscle show, blocks the bathroom door with a vending machine. Gemma goes into Cold Harbor and is wiped clean and is told to enter a room with a baby's crib in it while Egan watches. Meanwhile, Lorne from the Mammalion's Nurturable arrives at Drummond's secret chamber.
Mammalion's Nurturable brings an offering.
Okay, so now we know what them goats are being bred for. Sacrifices. Joy. We quickly learn that Gemma will be joining that goat as a sacrifice as well. It seems Gemma won't be dying because, Cold Harbor will take over her brain and she died as a consequence of her contribution to Lumen research. No, she's going to be a sacrifice along with the goat to Keir. So extra fucked up. Drummond pulls out the ceremonial bolt gun. Back on the testing floor, Gemma is being tasked with dismantling the baby crib while the same Billie Holiday tune plays that played in her home with Mark. This is a major test of the Severance system, as this would be a very impactful memory of Gemma's. They pretty much think that if the block holds against this, it will hold against anything, I guess. When this show first started, there was kind of the assumption that this tech was solid. But as we've learned, it's been a series of refinements over the years. Irving B. had been there longer than Mark and likely has a slightly less sophisticated chip. He was getting bleed through from his Audi when he dozed off at work. Mark and Gemma have chips that are more recent, and they are putting Gemma's through the gauntlet. Back at MDR, Milchick battles to get free. As Drummond prepares to liquefy the little goat's brains, Lorne asks how many more sacrifices will be required from her. And he says, as many as the Founder asks for. Not a good answer. These are her flock. But then Mark starts banging on the door to the testing floor hallway, and that attracts Drummond's attention. Drummond proceeds to beat Mark's ass, and just as he's choking the life out of him, Lorne stops him with a threat of the bolt gun. But Drummond ain't no punk. He bats that gun away, and fights back. But Brienne of Tarth don't play either, so they throw down, and Mark stops her from killing him with a bolt gun to the head, because that door still needs to be open, and Drummond can do it. Meanwhile, Pervy Doctor and Creepy Dad are glued to the live stream hidden cam watching Gemma dismantle the baby crib. Happy the block is holding. Mark uses Drummond to get into the elevator, and what happens next is exactly what I thought would happen. Mark S. has zero safety protocol on this trigger of that gun, and so when he reverts to Audi Mark, blam, bolt straight into Drummond's neck. Now that's something to wake up for. Wake up to. Mark's not having a great day. Anyway, that's a wrap on Drummond, everybody. Mark makes his way to the Cold Harbor room, and Milchick tells Choreography and Merriment to leave so he can get out. Helly makes an impassioned plea for them to help.
I know you've lost friends too, and you could be next.
And by the way they are looking around, what she's saying is ringing true to them. Mark uses Drummond's blood to get into Cold Harbor, and there she is, Gemma. Now, Mark knows that her memory is wiped and approaches her calmly, explaining who he is. Creepy Doc and Egan freak out. This isn't supposed to happen. I gotta say though, this is a true test of the chip, and it kind of fails. She trusts Mark. The only voice she's ever known tells her to stop, but she trusts Mark anyway. And she follows him out. But this is the only the first of 4 reunions between these two. When Gemma steps out of Cold Harbor, she reverts to her core self. Gemma Scout. And for the first time in years, Mark and Gemma are together again. Yay. Only then does Mark allow himself to give in to the emotion of the moment. That wasn't Gemma before. This is. But there's not much time as a building-wide alarm goes off, and she leads Mark back to the elevator up. She knows her way around much more than he does. Up on the severed floor, Helly realizes the alarm must mean that Mark is doing his part. Milchick steels himself for the new world he sees coming. And Robbie Benson, MD, pursues Mark and Gemma. Mark and Gemma make it to the elevator as Dr. Feelbad yells, "You'll kill them all!" Mark and Gemma share a moment of freedom together, and neither of them realize what's going to happen next. The elevator takes them up to the severed floor where they both have any personalities. That brings us to the awkward reunion of Mark S. and Miss Casey.
Mark S. Miss Casey, what's taking place?
Girl, we do not have enough time to get you up to speed. But at least Mark S. knows the plan, so he now leads Miss Casey heading for the exit staircase. Meanwhile, Milchick focuses his chi and Luke cages his way through Dylan's barrier and then strikes a Wolverine pose on the vending machine as he stares down Dylan and 100 angry severed instrumentalists.
Fuck you, Mr. Milchick.
Mark shoves Miss Casey out the exit door, and we have our last, well, not reunion, but sort of an introduction, as Miss Casey reverts to Gemma and turns to see Mark S. inside on the severed floor. She's confused, not knowing why Mark is hesitant to join her, and looks at her with zero affection whatsoever. But then Helly arrives and calls to him, and he chooses to go to her. And away they run. Where are they going? They have no idea. They probably only have a few minutes before they are stopped or just switched off. But it doesn't matter. Their last few moments are together. In a way, they are like teenagers. Nothing matters but this moment. Running doesn't make sense, but here we are. Let's run. End of season 2. Okay, man oh man. First off, excellent episode, excellent season. Still a lot of questions to answer and still room for stories to be told. So many possibilities. Will they start season 3 where this leaves off, or where there'll be a time jump past and have to work some of it out backwards? Mark has no idea that Helly and Dylan have recruited the choreography and merriment step crew to their cause. He has no plan at the moment. I really want to see Milchick throwing down with C&M like Scourge at Jalabru from Mighty Thor 362. And then we can see like Gemma booking like Sha'Carri Richardson across the parking lot, only to have Cobell and Devin Jay turn into frame and like, hop in, fool, let's go. And then zip out of there. Who knows? There's a lot of ways this can go, but they've earned my trust that they can do it. I was listening to the show's podcast a couple weeks back, and Ben Stiller said they actually have the ending planned out, so it's nice to know they aren't flying blind through this thing. Anyway, that's it for Severance Season 2. Thank you all for riding along with me. I'm interested in your thoughts and your reactions. Please feel free to add them to the comments. Just be cool, we're all fans here. Starting this weekend, I will start doing collective recaps of what I watched in the prior week. As more things are coming out, more movies, more shows, I won't be able to do separate videos for each thing. So I'll just do a recap of that week's viewing. So look for that. All right, everybody, keep it light. Peace.